Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It really is wonderful to see so many of you here in person. When I wrote that, of course, sitting at home a few weeks ago, I didn't realise the room would be as packed as it is this evening. It genuinely is wonderful to see everyone here, so thank you for coming. I'd also like to say hello to everyone who's joining us online. As you know, this is the first ever CIBSE, hybrid CIBSE presidential address. I hope the technology manages to keep up with us. In fact, we do need to move on, don't we? So there we go. Fingers crossed. So it's already been a relatively long evening, and I actually have quite a lot to say to you this evening as well. So I hope you'll forgive me if I get straight to the point of my address. I believe that my role and your role must be to inspire the next generation. Now, this has long been the case, but it feels especially important now for a number of reasons. One, climate change. Now, climate change is no longer a distant threat. It's a looming disaster. I said looming. Yeah. Forest fires, catastrophic floods, hurricanes, typhoons, and extreme heat, as we've just seen in India, have become so commonplace. And events that once would have made headlines around the world hardly merit more than a passing mention. Our complacency will not protect us. We must inspire and equip the next generation to work with us to respond to this threat. Two, COVID. And we've just heard from Kath about the great work that she and others in our profession have been doing to help the fight against COVID. Now, COVID-19 has roared around the world. Seemingly unstoppable, it is still a very long way from being over. And its impact has raised urgent questions about our buildings and our cities. Indeed, it has put the quality of the indoor environment and its relationship to the health and well-being of occupants under intense scrutiny. It has prompted me to think of this story, and I'm sure some of you in the room will know it. In August of 1854, an outbreak of cholera in Soho here in London killed 127 people in 6 days and 616 people within a month. Now, everyone was confused. No one understood why this was the case. But the local district doctor, John Snow, now that's an easy name to remember if you watch Game of Thrones, John Snow, the local district doctor, he studied the patterns of infections, of deaths. And through that investigation of patterns, he identified that the sickness and deaths, the epidemic, stemmed from contamination of the water of the most frequented pump on Broad Street. It was the first time that city infrastructure was identified as causing sickness and death. While the short-term response to the discovery was to remove the pump handle, it took a lot longer to formulate and agree on how to prevent and treat the disease for the long term. Now consider our response to the current frightening threat of COVID. Over the last 2 years, we have hurriedly assembled screens between desks, opened windows, donned masks and socially distanced. We have stopped the spread of COVID, but have we really treated the underlying cause and provided the long-term solution? Healthy and resilient buildings have never mattered more, and not just to deal with COVID, but also to manage the next threat, whatever and wherever that may occur. We must inspire and equip the next generation to work with us to achieve this. 3, war. The horrors of the conflict in the Ukraine are impossible to to overstate. The wholesale destruction of cities that were once home to millions is absolutely terrible to witness. Now, I have children, and for me, it is almost unbearably painful to see images like bombed apartment blocks, the walls sheared away to reveal the colourful wallpaper of a child's bedroom. As building services engineers, our first thought of how to respond to this may be practical ones. How can we help to repair those cities, the bricks and the mortar, the water and the electrical systems? But I would remind you that in thinking of how to rebuild the city, we're all actually really thinking about how to help to repair lives, communities and society. We must support and inspire each other to tackle these existential threats. Now, this year, CIBSE celebrates our 125th anniversary, and I've been reflecting on the fact that innovating to enable more sustainable, safer and healthier buildings that support society and communities to flourish is one thing that we, as building services engineers, have been doing since 1897. I'm thinking about things like clean heating and the move away from burning coal in rooms to passive methods or central heating systems that use clean fuels or renewable energy. I'm thinking about the move away from burning candles in rooms to light spaces, firstly to gas lighting, which actually some of the first gas lighting systems in London were just here on Carlton Terrace. Moving to electric lighting and now ever more energy efficient lighting solutions. And I'm thinking about the development of indoor plumbing systems that enable the introduction of indoor toilets and bathrooms. Now, these are all innovations that have transformed lives around the world. They're also innovations that have extended lives by producing safer and healthier buildings. Like Dr. John Snow, we should use all of our critical thinking faculties, our experience and our innovation to look beyond the accepted wisdom to deliver real and lasting change. Now, no one loves an award ceremony more than me. It's fantastic to celebrate the results of so much endeavour, to see the really outstanding receive the accolades that they truly deserve. But inspiring the next generation is not about selecting a handful of stars and pinning our hope on them. It's about encouraging, mentoring and cheering on a whole generation of engineers who, with our support, will solve the big technical and scientific problems of the future. When we celebrate the achievements of all and demonstrate publicly the real-world impact of their work, it helps us to broaden the appeal of our profession. Research shows that the most talented young people, those who have a choice of profession, are increasingly drawn to careers where they believe their work will have a positive impact on the world. And now, of course, I know I'm biased, but I would argue that there are very few careers indeed that offer more opportunity to deliver real change than that of a building services engineer. If we can inspire people to join us, people from a range of backgrounds who reflect the communities that we serve, if we can do that, our ability to problem solve and innovate in the future will rise exponentially. Now, as you can see from the slide there, my own CIBSE journey started in 1996. This makes me feel old. When I was the first recipient of the CIBSE Graduate of the Year. But me receiving the award did not happen in a vacuum. Right from the start of my career, I have been lucky enough to be surrounded by brilliantly supportive and inspiring people that make up the CIBSE community. or as Jeff would say, the CIBSE family. Whilst there was only one name on that trophy in 1996, there really should have also been a number of other names. There should have been Treve Mitchell, my father, who introduced me to the wonderful, wonderful world of engineering. There should have been Alan Knight, who introduced me to the brilliant world of building services engineering, and who, in his words, saved me from a lifetime of designing exhaust pipes if I had followed my initial instinct to work in the automotive industry. Terry Wyatt, Terry, who encouraged me to investigate the links between the indoor environment, health, well-being, and productivity. Should have been Tim Dwyer, who ran and led the excellent MSc course at London South Bank, where I learned so much. And of course, Simon, who always has been and always will be the wind beneath my wings. The support that I received enabled me to grow my skills and my confidence. And it saw me working across the UK and Europe, in Canada for 4 years, and the Middle East for 8 years. And a very exciting 6 months in Hong Kong. It is particularly rewarding for me now to know that I've worked in sectors that help to make communities stronger by providing better education and better healthcare outcomes. I've been able to contribute to projects that hold sporting and cultural events and buildings that inspire creativity and support people to develop and communities to flourish. Now it's brought me here, able to speak to you as CIBSE's president. I am proud, truly proud, to be promoting and supporting CIBSE's values and its global recognition that has been earned by you, its 21,000 members located across 95 countries worldwide. Thinking back to my 28-year-old self, I could never have imagined how rich and rewarding my journey would be. Now, I want to be part of the team that inspires others to believe that anything is possible too. Today, our Younger Engineers Awards are bigger and better than ever. I'm constantly told by Ewan that the entrants are also getting better, so I don't think I would have won 20 if I entered now. But they're certainly bigger and better, and indeed last year, for the 2021 awards, we actually had 20 fantastic candidates. And now, in fact, we have a chance to hear from some of those candidates of the awards.
I think personally the biggest challenges for building services engineers today is to reach the government target for net zero in 2050.
Probably the biggest challenge we have is how do we go about decarbonising our homes, our buildings, to ensure that our heating and hot water is low carbon or carbon free.
As we go on, one of the best ways of building or using building stock in an environmentally friendly way is finding ways of reducing waste and finding ways of demolishing buildings less, especially if they're still structurally sound.
In my bias, which is mechanical, we need to make sure that we're delivering projects mechanically that are going to be sustainable for the future, meeting the client's needs in a socially sustainable way.
In MEP services, we have the ability to take a building, change its use, give it a much longer life, reducing carbon emissions and encouraging a more circular economy attitude, which is something that we could definitely do better.
I think there is kind of a resistance to change, and we really need to kind of be educating people, residents, occupiers of our buildings on kind of low carbon systems we are designing, how we can get them on board, get them engaged, retrofitting and upgrading, and how can we do that in a way that ensures that we can kind of deliver safe and sustainable built environments in the future.
Inspiring the younger generation kind of relies on a few things. Showing people like myself, who originally might not have known how interesting they'd find engineering as a topic, showing them like what work is really like and what kind of problems you're solving and what kind of tools you're using.
Social value has come into effect with many different businesses over the last few years. I think one for CIBSE would be to increase the social value market, definitely by reaching out to schools. This will be able to inspire the next generation of engineers, in my personal opinion.
Can you kind of go out your way and set something up that's really going to nurture and develop and inspire, encourage people into the industry? Can you go and do some outreach at school, at a university? I think that would be one of a really good challenge to set to people. Can they do something individually themselves?
We need to show them that we're making as much effort as we can as an industry to really deal with both operational and embodied carbon, and to be having conversations with clients and our architects about how to build low carbon design as opposed to trying to mitigate design issues that arise later in the process. So I think that would be really inspiring for young people.
The more people that know about what careers there are out there for them, particularly in the building services sector, they'll know that they can apply and be fortunate enough to work within this industry.
Fantastic, absolutely. And we've got one, Lucy is here, so Lucy, just put your hand up. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Lucy. So I think you'll agree with me that it really is truly inspiring to hear from Lucy, from Yogi and Harry speaking so passionately and eloquently about our profession. Their energy and their promise is really striking. They genuinely fill me with hope and expectation for the future. For CIBSE, for our profession, of course, but also, most importantly, for the world. That's why I have chosen one theme for our 125-year celebration, which is Inspire the Next Generation. And I have identified two goals, which are, the first goal is for you and me to pay forward, such an important concept, to pay forward the support that we have received to the next generation. The second goal is for us to share how building services engineers are key in the transition to net zero and in fighting climate change. Now, I've also set 5 challenges, tying together the 125, our 125 years of celebrations. The challenges are meant to be a spark rather than a rule. I want them to be inclusive, flexible, memorable, celebratory, and for them to be accessible for organisations, individuals, networks, regions, groups, and societies. And I want them to be shared as widely as possible to inspire others and to amplify the voice of CIBSE. Now, in developing these challenges, I have had an opportunity to discuss them with a number of groups around CIBSE, including YEN, the patrons, a focus group, and Home Counties North East. And I am genuinely buoyed by the enthusiastic response they have received and the eagerness of members to get involved. I'm also delighted to share with you that we will soon have a newly invigorated Fellows Network. And I look forward to the engagement and support that I know the Fellows Network will provide to my challenges. So let's have a brief look at the challenges. So, as has been on the screen for a bit, the first one is celebrate. To celebrate your building services icons. Now, your icon might be a person, it might be an invention, a company, a project, technique, or technology. It could be a publication, a group, or someone who taught or mentored you. However, crucially, it must be something or someone that inspired you to develop as a building services engineer. The second challenge is to inspire future engineers to consider our profession. Now, this challenge aims to inspire young people to consider a career in engineering, and specifically in building services engineering. We know that there are not enough teachers who can engage with students about engineering, and that universities aren't consistently talking about building services as an engineering option. I ask you to reach out to students from primary and secondary schools through to colleges and universities and engage with them about engineering as a career, and tell them about the wonders of building services engineering. The third challenge is to boost the development of an early careers engineer. Now, the talent, energy and innovation of the early careers engineers that I meet truly inspires me. They make me even more optimistic for the future of our profession. And you might have guessed by now, I'm generally an optimistic person, so I'm helped by talking to the early careers professionals. Now, companies can help by setting up a mentoring scheme if there isn't already one, an exchange program with other companies to give early careers professionals other experiences, a shadow board, or a CIBSE training and development scheme. As an individual can encourage and sponsor an early careers engineer in their journey to CEng, EngTech, and to CEng. As I have mentioned earlier, winning an award can be transformational for an early careers engineer. So consider nominating someone for an award, including the CIBSE Young Engineers Awards, and I think that entries are open at the moment for that. So get your entries in, please. And the fourth challenge is to share your building services story. I have a story about my journey, which led me to become a building services engineer, and each of us has one. Some of you have come through university or taken an apprenticeship route, knowing you wanted to be a building services engineer. Others, like Yogi, came to our profession through other routes. Each of those routes will resonate with someone, and you sharing your journey could just be the spark that they need to become involved. Each of your stories is important and relevant. And the fifth challenge is engage. So engage with your peers to share climate impact reduction knowledge. Now, as building services engineers, we understand our work can improve outcomes for the built environment, but the great work that we do is often unheard and not widely understood. I challenge you to share your knowledge publicly and to broaden the role that you play in developing your projects and delivering your work. Now, the right way is often the hard way, and we have a collective challenge in communicating the value of environmentally responsible solutions above or alongside economic considerations. I challenge you to communicate how your work and expertise is driving the move to net zero and positively impacting climate change. We all have a part to play in meeting the 2025 and 2050 climate targets, and I urge you to be ever more climate ambitious in your approach, your conversations, and your proposals. Now, I've been inspired by my fellow engineers, by CIBSE and its work, and by the fantastic profession of building services engineering. So this year, it will be my challenge, helped by the CIBSE team, to inspire you and to inspire the next generation. I look forward to working you on the 125 challenges, to celebrate, to inspire, to boost, to share, and to engage. Collectively, we need to raise the voice of CIBSE, the voice of building services engineering. And it is my hope that if each of us undertakes at least one of these challenges, then our collective voice will be heard and listened to. And make no mistake, there are mountains to climb, and the journey ahead will not be easy. We need the next generation to lead the way, but our expectations can weigh heavily on young shoulders. And that's why we must be by their side to support and inspire them every step of the way. Thank you very much.